Welcome back to another episode of the Soul Aligned Network's private podcast. I am your host, Chris Madrigal, founder of the Soul Aligned Network. And today I am joined by one of our guest experts whose work just deeply resonates with
Mm,
what we stand here in this community, which is leading with authenticity and embodiment. So, my guest today is Michelle Maree, and she helps brilliant leaders who are already amazing at what they do, but still find themselves, freezing and overthinking and hiding behind the scenes. She really helps them move into their power and does it in a very beautiful way that we'll also touch on today. But for now, I want to welcome you, Michelle. Thank you
thank you.
for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate your community and the women that you're bringing together. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying yes to the opportunity to share your wisdom in this community because I believe this is how we allow ourselves to explore just different experts, different
Yeah,
coaches, different mentors, because there's no one direct path to alignment.
exactly. Yes,
And that's what I love about this
yes,
community and what we're building together and why I love to share my stage with others. But Michelle, I
yes.
want to just maybe go a little bit back. And I always love to hear the stories of the women that we bring here on the show. And I'd love to hear from you a little bit more about what led you to the work that you do
Mm,
today.
yeah, yeah, I'd be happy to. Oh my goodness. Okay, so if we go way, 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 way back, I was a painfully shy child. And my mom forced me to take an acting class when I was little. She had me actually audition first, and I whispered my name. Like I couldn't even speak fully. And so she made me go to this acting class, and I did not want to go. And he had us do this exercise where we held each other's hands, and we started with a whisper, and we ended up at the end of the cafeteria, like screaming. And something happened, like something shifted in my little body that was like, I can do that. Like I can be that big. I can make those kinds of noises. So my theater background started very, very young. And it wasn't really until I hit my teens that I realized that the stage was actually the safest place for me to be as a person. My big emotions were not allowed. There was a lot of pain that came with me kind of showing up fully.
Mhm.
And I had a trauma history as a small child. And so there were just a lot of these internal and external messages, just it's safer to just be quiet, safer to just be small. Um, and also in school, like, don't be a bragger, like don't show how smart you are, just all of these messages. So I taught theater for many years, and then I worked with teenagers on sharing their personal stories from the stage. And I started to realize, like, I need to understand more about trauma
Mhm.
because for some of these young folks, they would go home and they might use or they might self-harm. And I really I wanted to learn, how do I support somebody to tell their story, but also contain their story so it's not like re-traumatizing. It doesn't hurt them to share their story. And so I went back to school to be a drama therapist. And then from there on, I just focused on kind of the blend of theater and performance and therapy. And then I started speaking as a business owner, and all of my shit came up. Like, I was
Mhm.
great as a character. Give me
Yeah.
any character, I will get up on stage and do it. But me as Michelle, speaking about my big thoughts and my vulnerable feelings and my wisdom, like it was terrifying. And it brought up all of these blocks that I hadn't really worked through in
Mhm.
putting my voice out into the world. So that's why at this point I focus on the speaker coaching, and in my own healing work, somatic work, embodiment has been the greatest healer for me to
Yeah.
get out of my head, which I'm really good at being in, and
Hmm.
really just how do I drop back into this beautiful body that has so much wisdom and really helps me stay here and grounded and present. So I like to blend those in. I went to Toastmasters for a while and I couldn't stand it. Like on one hand, I loved it because it gave you the concrete tools, but it just felt very surface level to me. And I play at the deep end of the pool in pretty much everything I do. And so I really I wanted to help people like, let's just really get in there, right? And
Yeah.
show up as you, not as a persona, not as who you think I'm supposed to look like, move like, speak like. Can you show up as you? Um, so my favorite word is authenticity. And I that's kind of the core of who I am, authenticity.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. There is there is so much depth in what you just
Mm,
shared because it makes me think of how many children, teenagers
yeah,
carry that unknowingly, right?
right.
There's really trauma that is holding people back, holding me back in one way, I'm
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
um, from just being who you truly are, and you just don't know. And then whether that's in school, in business, in your, corporate career,
Yeah.
affects you.
Yeah. It does. And most people don't like they don't associate I have trauma. You know what I mean? Like
Right,
we think
right.
of the big T traumas like, oh, somebody died or I had like, physical violence and really it's like when the third grade teacher
Mm,
poked fun at you in front of the classroom when you got the answer wrong, like your whole nervous system oriented around that moment. And now it's trying to protect you by saying, oh, we're never going to do that again. We are never going to stand up in front of a group of people and say anything because you're going to get it wrong. And then you're going to be humiliated, right? And we don't think of those as traumas, but they are because a trauma is defined as something sudden and shocking, something that is a threat to safety, identity, or sanity leaves us
mhm.
in a helpless or isolated place. And when a third grade teacher makes fun of you or the kids laugh, it threatens your identity as a good student. And
Yeah.
then you just, your nervous system does what it's designed to do, which is to protect you.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I love this because, in fact, this week I had a live event and somehow this
Mm,
conversation came up where it's like, where are you carrying,
yeah,
you know, these uh these messages that are inside, like coded inside you that you don't even realize.
yeah,
And I shared a moment that, maybe I don't label it as trauma, but I
right,
recognize that it impacted how I thought moving forward. And this is already as an adult. And
right.
I'm talking about, I'm in corporate and they tell you to think outside the box and you're doing that. And you're like, I'm going to pitch this idea because it is the best thing ever. And I'm speaking to the VP and I share this idea. And his response was, you think too big because you need
Mm,
to think smaller.
mm.
You need to think smaller. It's just one of you. And my initial thought was like, I didn't say this to him, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to think smaller. This is like me, right? But I realized over time how when I was thinking of this big idea or something, because that's how I would naturally think, it's like you think too big.
Yeah.
Think smaller.
You, right? It becomes an identity thing instead of a behavior. Like a behavior we can change, but like changing who I am, that's
I know that was like maybe an innocent comment, like, okay, Chris, yeah,
right.
this is like a huge corporation. It's one of you with this idea.
Yeah.
Like, think smaller, at a smaller scale.
Yeah.
And it was interesting how I would catch myself after that. When I'm thinking big, it's like, ooh, that's probably too big. I need to think smaller. And that shrinks
Yeah.
you unconsciously.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
thank you for bringing this up because
Yeah.
what I'd mentioned as well is like, who are those people? And I mentioned, was it a teacher? Was somebody that just has now impacted the way you show up in life,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
not you.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that and for reminding people that the you that's inside is just ready to be unleashed. And I
Yeah.
love that that's how you support people in a very powerful way.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Okay.
it.
So, yes, me too. I'm like so into this conversation. Um, I'd love to hear from you a little bit more about like,
Yeah.
we're talking about let's talk about speaking, right? Because as entrepreneurs or as corporate leaders or whatever, maybe just a leader in your community, there's going to be different times where you're going to have to be speaking, speaking
Yes.
in public. But
Yes.
what is the difference between like an embodied speaker
Yeah.
and like the traditional public speaking, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So what I've seen is as a performer, there's this phrase that they use like bigger, louder, faster, right? So when you're on a stage, the bigger your voice, the bigger your gestures, the bigger your yeah, all of those things support your performance, right?
Mhm.
But the issue that I see over and over again with speakers is back to that pretending to be somebody that they're not.
Mhm.
So rather than taking who they really are and amplifying that with the bigger, brighter, louder, they're putting on a persona. And so when they get lost, they're lost in this persona, right? They're lost in this idea of like, oh shit, I forgot that whole section, or there's just so much angst about it versus like, I know what I'm talking about. And yeah, sure, I have my outline and I have all of the things that I want to do. But really, what I have to keep doing is coming back to my grounded why, my grounded truth, my expertise from my lived experience and or my clinical experience or whatever it is, and it just feels different to the audience. I don't change who I am once I walk off that stage. Right? Like when you see me in my booth, I might still be performing. I'm still the persona. I'm giving you all of this information. But if you came to my booth as an embodied speaker, you're just going to see me, you're going to feel me, maybe toned down because I'm not on stage anymore, right? But I'm
Mhm.
still 100% me. So as a performer, I would get incredible anxiety until I stood on that stage. And once I stood on that stage, it was like everything just kind of disappeared and I was able to come back to myself. But that was harder when it was me. And that the reason I'm so focused on the embodied speaking is because I had to learn how to do that when it was my words. Right? Like
Mhm.
going to a networking event when they would have you do the 30-second spiel, like I was in a near panic when it would come time to me. Like I'm either over rehearsing it in my head or I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to miss the big thing, the big important thing that I want to share with them that really helps them understand who I am and what I do." And the more I worked with my nervous system and the more I just focused on grounding myself and coming back to that why, everything that came out of my mouth was so natural, so on point. I had a teacher who called it quintessentializing, where instead of like filling this space with a bunch of words and a bunch of, it was clear, right? And resonant. And I started to notice how people responded to that.
Mhm.
And I had been doing a lot of nervous system work for myself, and I made that connection of, oh my goodness, the only thing that's really shifted is my own relationship with my nervous system and a sense of being in my body, because trauma takes us out of our body, right? For many of us, trauma happened in the body, and so it feels like a terrifying place to be. And the more we actually are in and working with our nervous system and working with those parts of us that come in, like anxiety just means it's important.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety just
I love
means,
how you just worded that.
right? Like
Or we just
anxiety means
rephrase it.
I want to stay in integrity with myself. And the anxiety gets bigger when I know I'm not. And when we over rehearse and we're so focused on like getting it right, we're not in ourselves, right?
When you were speaking right now and you said, you just start to speak from inside, it's almost like the first thing that came to me was like you're just channeling your wisdom
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
doing, right?
100%.
Like you're allowing yourself to be open to just be you
Yeah.
and allow the perfect words to come out
Yes.
exactly how they're supposed to.
Yes.
And I love when you said, people are like trying to bring this persona
Yeah.
on stage or on the performance. And to me, it's like you're you're bringing on this persona instead of the performance because if you really think about it, it's like everything's a performance, but you can perform from a supernatural state.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like there's, yes, I use a lot in my marketing, like moving from performance into presence and resonance.
Mm,
Because it, again, it comes back to that idea of like the bigger, brighter, louder is just reinforcing me. But if it's performance and it's reinforcing somebody else, it's reinforcing who I think you want me to be. Right. And so,
okay.
and I'm still grappling with that because there is a part of me
Yeah,
that's like, well,
yeah.
yeah, you're right. Like everything is, yeah, I'm going to behave differently when I'm in front of a crowd I'm selling to than when I'm sitting with my grandmother. Right. Like
Right.
there's going to be a different energy, but I'm still me. And that was yeah, that was just the crux for me because the anxiety, a big piece of it was I felt really out of integrity because I
Hmm.
knew I was trying to either impress or be who you wanted me to be or people please or I got to make sure everybody in the room resonates with me. And right now I'm so much better. Like can love me or hate me. I just don't want the in between, the confused, you're like, I don't know, and so that supports me to show up fully as me. It's like you don't have to resonate with what I have to say, but the people who do really will.
Will.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. This is so, and it's almost like part of me wants to go a little bit back into
Yeah.
the performance piece
Yeah.
because I love how you're talking about it. And like to me, when I think of business and you're showing up, like
Yeah.
I think it depends on the stage, let's say that you're on. Let's put it
Right.
that way,
Right.
where it's like, yes, I'm putting on a show, but my own show from
Yeah.
my
One
authenticity,
woman
right?
show, right?
It's my one woman show where it's like, if you're paying me
Yeah.
for something like I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna be all me. That to me is gonna be like a performance of what like you're paying for me,
Right.
not to show up as a different person, but
Right.
to show up with all my wisdom and all that I have
So here's,
versus
yeah,
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, here's the clarifier that I would make. In a performance, you are taking on a character, right? As a human, you're putting on a role. So
Okay.
the role that I'm playing as I'm speaking might be expert or,
Mm-hmm.
speaker or whatever. So it's still me, but I'm in a role. That role is going to shift when I'm in the role of mother. It's going to shift when I'm in the role of wife. It's going to shift when I'm in the role of, having to get money from somebody versus holding space for them, right?
Right, right.
That's all
Yeah.
me. It's just the role that changes versus the character, which is me trying to be somebody else, right? Like I'm trying
Yeah.
to be, and you could argue that even that is still just role shifting
Yeah,
because
yeah.
really, in order for me to play this character successfully, I have to be able to tap into that part of me, right?
Right.
And I'm just like kind of increasing my access to that part of me. Does that make
Yeah, yeah. No, totally, totally.
sense?
And I really do think it also has to do with like what resonates with you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love how you're describing, performance, character, role, persona, because the people that are tuning into this are gonna hear and take with them exactly what is meant for them, that
Right.
that's gonna happen for them. And I think that's the beautiful part, right?
Yes,
When you're
always.
speaking your truth, when you're speaking with that authenticity, people can see it, people can
Yeah.
tell,
Yeah.
and they can also tell when you're being fake or you're
Totally.
just saying something because you scripted it because there's just something that you want to put out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And with speaker coaching, you can rehearse that thing. Like if there is a particular phrase or idea you want to get across, and maybe it's not as familiar in your system as you would like it to be, like it's totally okay to practice that, to play with that. Like how, but what I like to bring in is almost like an improv with it, of like, okay, let's take that thing and I'm going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at you, so that you can keep grounding into like, what are you really trying to say? Like, is
Mhm.
that metaphor itself the only way to get that across? Or is there a bigger, beautiful, like, thing that will show up when you're really connected to it, right? That's not what chat gave you, or, or what you came up with in the middle of the night as like your brilliant idea, right? Um, and so, rehearsal is fine, practice is fine. Like if I have concepts that I want to put kind of in a structure, it's fine for me to play with that. But I want to keep coming back to the body and like, how does this feel as I say it? Like, is it resonant, just like you were saying? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the feeling is so different
Yeah.
because I know as I've evolved, it's like, yeah, I'm the type of person I like structure, so I'm always going to have an outline,
Right.
right? So that I can make sure that if I start going off on my
Yeah,
thoughts, that I know, where to go back next. But
absolutely.
the feeling in your body and the feeling when you show up, when it's just all coming from within,
Mhm.
feels different.
It
I
does.
think that's when people will be able to notice that, right? Because I can also feel when it's like, okay, now this is more of like I'm saying something because I have to say it because
Yeah.
that's the thing. But
And what we wanna practice is that feeling state, because
yeah,
it feels so fleeting. It's just like, "Oh, I felt that way that one time when I knew I was being really, like, true to myself, but it's like I can't find it again." Well, that's what we practice then. We practice coming back to, like, how do you know? How does your body know? Like, my body knows with, like, a warmth in my chest, kind of like this light feeling in my chest. My breath is deeper, like, I feel the weight of my own
relax.
body, right? Yeah, I feel relaxed, my movements are fluid, they're not, like, staged, That's how I know, but we often don't know that, like, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about, like, how do I know when ho how does it feel when I'm in deep resonance, right?
Yeah,
And that becomes the practice.
love it. Okay, Michelle. So I want to know why you're so passionate about midlife women using their voice and being seen.
Oh my goodness. Um, okay, is it okay if I cuss?
Yeah,
Hey.
everything's possible. Everything's accepted.
Okay.
The real you, right?
Right? Okay. So midlife to me is when all of the masks drop away, when the performance drops away, right? When we have no choice but to be in connection with our deep truth. Like when the blood stops flowing, we are we are generative in such a different way. And those of us, especially like this generation, like Gen X women, um, we were kind of the poster child, for holding it all together, for
Mhm.
holding it all together, for being like the one who was in the corporation with all of the amazing ideas, who was still getting coffee for the men in corporate or whatever. Like there's so many stories in our bodies about what's no longer working for women in general, for our society and our relationship with women. And midlife women have crossed the line of the fuckets, and we are the perfect people to be calling out all of this shit. Like, And I when I say call out, like I have my own relationship with that of like the difference between like calling out and calling in. Like my therapist self would prefer to call people in, like, hey, can we like all gather around this? But I also am very aware of and enjoying the part of me that's like, fuck that. We are calling this out. This
Yeah.
is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Why are we still doing this? Right? So I feel like there's a combination of the wisdom that we've developed over the years, right? All of these stages we've had to move through and rediscover who are we really. Like when I got divorced, I looked around my house and I was like, I do I like anything that's even here? Like, why is this on my wall? Like, I had to reevaluate so many things, and women in midlife are in constant state of reevaluation. Reevaluation of relationships, reevaluation of their work, reevaluation of their friendships. Like,
Yeah.
and so we're just in this prime place to be speaking it out loud. Like, we are the generation that has made menopause an actual word that people talk about now.
Right?
Like, we're just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, we're going to talk about this shit. Like, and now the men are like, oh yeah, my wife is in perimenopause and, this is what's going It's like,
Now it's that it's okay. It's
it's
like saying,
okay.
a
Exactly.
teenager,
Yes.
right? Is
Yes.
oh my goodness.
So we're here to break the taboos. We're here to call out the bullshit. We're here to say there's a different way of doing this. And it's time to come back to the power of women and what yeah, they've had their turn. It's time for us to come back in, and be like, all right, you had your run, and we're not taking over, right? That I don't see matriarchy as replacing patriarchy in as far as a hierarchy, right? To
Right,
me,
right.
it's much more about, all right, let's all come back in to this conversation. And I'm talking, right?
Let me finish, right?
I'm
Like
talking.
let me
Yeah. So we're ready. We're ready. And the world
been
needs
ready, beyond ready.
that.
And yet there's still so many women who don't have the courage to do it.
Yes. And that's
And
why we got to back each other.
I'm glad you're bringing this up. I don't know if you're familiar with Monique Alvarez. She's also one of the guest speakers or
Mm,
experts in the Soul Line Network. But right now, her and I are on this series to talk about this,
yeah.
right? Talk about midlife. Talk about
Yeah.
how it's just affecting us, and it's like Golden Girls in denial, right? How many
Right?
of us are in denial? And
Yes.
we're gonna have a sidebar conversation because I'd love for you to come, even connect with us. And we
Yeah.
actually do it we've been doing it every Thursday at
I love
11
it.
a.m. Pacific. And we talked a little bit about that today, in fact, right before we jumped on. And the topic was just like the loneliness that
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah.
And there's so much. And
Yeah.
there's a lot that you said in this last question that I know could take us in so many different directions, but we're coming up to our time. I just know that there's more conversations to be,
Yeah.
but I know you already have the opportunity to share your signature event within the community. So, for those that haven't had the opportunity to catch the replay, tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about what you covered and what they can expect because it is available. It's under the guides section where everyone can have access to it.
Yeah. So the signature event was kind of bringing a lot of this together, and it's really about what gets in the way of us expanding, right? Like what are the barriers that show up when we truly want to step into our visibility? And I kind of go over three different things. The first is the historical set point that our system operates based on these kind of set points where our nervous system told us, like, this is what's safe. And
Mhm,
anything outside of that is not safe. And we're going to do everything we can to keep you within this safe little bubble, right?
mhm,
And so just knowing that supports us to go, okay, so, but is this a set point I want to keep? Like, is it time to move the needle on that? Is it time to expand that, right?
mhm,
The other is kind of the imposter syndrome spiral, and what's fascinating about imposter syndrome is that, yeah, when we like we get to that set point with the imposter syndrome, it's really telling us that we're about ready to cross a threshold. And it's not, it feels like in the body like a stop sign, but the reality is it's an indicator that we are at that threshold and our system is trying to keep us safe. And again, it's like, and what do I need to cross that line?
Mhm.
Right. And imposter syndrome really is kind of everything that we've been talking about, which is it really shows up when you're not being you. Like that
Yeah.
is what imposter syndrome is you're not being
Yeah.
you. Right. And then the third piece being kind of a focus on like the visibility paradox of we all want to be seen, right? Until we're seen.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
like
Yes,
all of
right?
the stuff comes up of like, you know, and all of our stories about what it meant to be seen show up. And so it's some of the same subject, but really it's about like what's getting in the way of us expanding. And that expansion is not a mindset issue, it's a nervous system issue.
Mm.
Because if it was a mindset issue, we would already be across that line. We all know the mindset shit. We all know what we need to do to talk to ourselves and blah, blah, blah. If that worked, we would already be over there and we would feel confident over there. So it's
Mhm.
about the nervous system being ready to do the same thing, right? To meet that mindset shift. So that's a big piece of what it was.
Beautiful. We're gonna make sure to put the link right on the the body of this episode, so anyone who wants to tune in can do so.
Awesome.
Michelle, thank you so much.
Yeah,
This
thank you.
conversation is such a beautiful reminder that, confidence isn't something that we perform. It's
Exactly.
something that we feel in our mind and our body
Yeah.
and purpose of alignment. So,
Yeah.
thank you once again. For those that are tuning in, if you want to connect deeply with Michelle and her work, drop her a message. You can connect with her here inside the Soul Align Network, and you guys can then take the conversation,
Yeah.
in whichever direction is supportive for you.
Yeah.
And as always, thank you for tuning in. And we will see you all next week here in another episode of the Soul Learning Network private podcast. Until next time, bye.
Thank you.